Hello, my dear friends and followers and whatever. In this video, we like to talk about the usage of Chinese martial arts. Maybe you remember that at that time when I started to learn Chinese martial arts, there were a lot of DVDs out there with Wing Chun against karate, Wing Chun against boxing, and so on. And in these videos, you see people with a jacket saying boxing, and this guy is just like pa pa. At the same time, the Wing Chun guy is doing like 20, 30 movements, and of course, for the video purpose, that guy won. And here I like to start, because nowadays you have like the discussion: oh, is Chinese martial arts useful or not? Is it still up to date or whatsoever? For that, we have to see something very important. When we talk about boxing, when we talk about MMA, for example, we are not talking about an art directly. We are talking about a rule set. A rule set that's developed into what you see nowadays in boxing matches, that formed that sport into what it is. So when you see two different boxers, there are still different styles in boxing, yeah? But you do not see such a big difference between their training procedure and their style itself. Of course, there are still variants. There are still there's still variations of what they are doing and how they do it. And of course, boxing is also a big business. That means if you are an athlete in boxing, you are trained to your maximum. That means you are not just trained after a book. You know what your arm length is. You know how heavy you are. You know how long your feet are to develop your most efficient way of boxing. So actually, it's like every professional boxer is a signature boxer. This means like his style is more or less designed for him, based on the rule set. So the same goes for MMA. So of course, out of these rules, you develop a training method that fits to those to those contests. So for traditional martial arts, it's somehow the same, but we have to see the context. That means we cannot just see the rule set, because literally there is no rule set. But we have to see the context when they were developed, when they passed down to the next generations. The idea of a duel, the idea of a fighting match was not the base on why they trained, why they tried to develop something out of it. It was not the need for that. So it's not the need for having like 3 rounds against each other and see how fit you are by your cardio, how hard you can punch and whatsoever. So it's quite a little bit like Iaido. Iaido is a Japanese sword art where it's about pulling the knife. So you are pulling your weapons at your most efficient distance. That means if I do not have like a 5-meter distance to my opponent and have like a devastating strike while I'm jumping towards them. I'm not saying that those things do not occur in the past. It always can be like somebody is closing their shoes and one is jumping. So it's not that impossible. But for your own training, you do not practice for the most uncommon situation. You are practicing for the most common situation towards the most uncommon. So that means I strike in the reach of my arm range or my foot range or whatever, and I strike then when the opponent does not expect that. So I'm not just not telegraphing, I'm also putting a lot of power in my non-telegraphed punch. And that's also the difference between boxing, for example. In boxing, of course, why do I like to talk about boxing? Because I'm pretty familiar with boxing. In boxing, of course, you have like a part of your training where you try not to telegraph your punches so much. But in the end, it's not that important. It's still important, but not that important. Why? Because you do not have just one round. You do not just have one shot. So you have many shots. Actually, you want to create like a situation where you can put your where you can knock out or just dominant, just put your opponent permanent in a disadvantaged position. That means like, so this is my opponent. I just let him punch. I let him punch. I punch. I let him punch. Let him move. Let him move. Let him get exhausted. So. And in this moment, when in this process of getting exhausted, the opponent gets slower. He punches by far too telegraphed, because when you get slower and you still have your your gloves on, and and so you try to spin your body to move your arms, and in that moment I can set him up for a knockout. Okay, I come up here. Now I know. Okay, after a cross, he's always doing a swinger or whatever. So in this moment, I can come in and finish the job. So this in theory, of course. So as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, and the same goes also for Chinese martial arts. So when I practice Chinese martial arts, non-telegraphic punches or attacks are necessary. So, for example, when you practice something like Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, there's nothing like a guard, if you want. Okay, of course you can say in Xingyi, for example, you have the San teacher, but in the end, the San teacher is not a guard for itself. If you look at Bagua, you can say, okay, you have like these hands, but also these positions are not guards. So mostly, or even if you do Tombe, so Tombe you have your arms down, but mostly you have your arms down until you attack, and until you attack powerful and in a non-telegraphic manner. So as I said, you need to be in your range, because if you are not in your range, in your Goldilocks zone, let's say it like this, then you have to accelerate your body, and acceleration always puts you into a position where your movement can be seen. For example, I cannot just simply fly over the ground and jump 5 meters. So I even don't think I can do it if I want to do it. But even if I want to bridge distance, so I have to get my weight into motion, and to get my weight into motion, I have first to bend back and get out. So even if I do it less telegraphed, it's still in a way that I have to accelerate my body. That in some manner you will see what I'm going to do. At least you will. You can expect what I'm going to do. Therefore, as I said in Yidom, you need to know when you have to pull your weapons. So, if the opponent is moving towards me, I can move back, or I can just use the situation to get in. So, if my opponent is like pretty open and wants to reach my chest, I reach his chest by getting longer without acceleration of my upper body. So this is a topic by itself, because what does that mean is not just, okay, I'm out of the reach or something. It's like you have to be able to move your body in a specific way that you still can have power, and still it's not or it's like you do not swing out of your rib lines. So To make it short, Chinese martial arts are not sports in a way. It's also not just self-defense. It's an art where you attack and where you defend, always with the purpose to be in the end the winner. So okay, I hope I made this point clear, and I hope you liked the video. And as I said, I am not going to edit much in the videos in the future, and therefore you are welcome.